Hey guys, Mike Roberts, the Converse Cowboy podcast. Sat down with Jay McLaughlin today. Jay's a horse trainer. He is a father. He's a husband and world champion. He's a 14-time world champion with over $1.6 million in lifetime earnings, showing horses like Blindsided and Shiny Outlaw. This is a really cool conversation. I'm excited for y'all to check it out. So let us know what you think. Jay, it was really fun to kind of go back and see your path and your journey onto what got you to where you are now. But starting as an 18-year-old.
That would be my wife, probably.
What's that?
That would be my wife, probably, that got me where I am.
That's a good answer.
She's a pusher.
Yes, sir. We all need somebody like that in our life, right?
She makes you want to be better, so that's good.
So how long, I guess, since you brought it up, how long have you guys been together?
Well, we've been together. We were together 3 years before we got married in 1998.
Okay.
22 years in June.
So anybody that's been married more than 10 always ask, what's the secret to a successful marriage?
Well, it doesn't seem like it's been very long. It seems like it's been about probably 3 minutes underwater.
Jay,
I just tell her that just to mess with. No, you know what? She's pretty simple. There's no drama in her, so it's pretty simple stuff. Either are or you aren't.
Yeah. And what I've realized that, as with most folks doing what you're doing for a living, it's not just you, it's the entire family, wife, kids, everybody's involved, right?
Oh, when I was in Missouri, I guess I was just got married, and we had rider. I mean, I was gone pretty much 6 months of the year showing horses because all the competition was in Texas and Oklahoma, and you're only as good as your competition. So I went there and showed, and that's just how it began. And when I moved down to Gainesville in 2009, and that was probably the longest we'd ever been together during the years. I mean, because I was always gone and she had a job. And when I moved down there, she didn't have to work. She just raised the kids. And I guess she had double work, I guess, raising two of my kids. But it was a little harder than going to work and leaving them at daycare. I lost you.
Yes, sir. I got you back. You there?
There you are.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Technology's great when it works.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you start off at Carrol Rose Quarter Horse, Aaron Ranch, then now to where you are at Salt Fork Cattle Company there in Clarendon. But can you go back to Carrol Rose? How old were you whenever you started out there?
That was 2009, and I was born in 74, so whatever that is.
I'm from Louisiana, man. I don't do math good.
My time there is like a blur because there was very little sleep.
I got you. So I guess go back.
Before I was there, I was at the Sunset Creek Ranch in Missouri. Julie Gibbons owned it. And that was kind of where I got my start with some pretty good horses. I had my first snaffle bidder that I took to Reno. Her name was SS Rosa. And I actually had a horse trade and traded and got her from Robert Chown because he owned Sailing Smart, half of Sailing Smart at the time, and made the open finals at the snaffle bit. And I think that was my only year to be intermediate eligible. The rest of the time I've been in the open. I had a stud called Uno What Time It Is, and he's actually, I think he's 18, 17 or 18 now and still showing.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Then I moved and went to Carrol's, and I went there for the horses. The horsepower was the main thing going there.
I got you. Can you take me back to that time?
And not to be political. Well, not to be political, but President Obama was in office and he was killing me at the tax table. So I needed to get a job.
I got you. Take me back to that first time when you ride in. You're 18 years old and you go to the snaffle bit. Was it in 2000? Is that in 2004? Is that right?
No, I wasn't 18, but I was a little older than that. I had a kid, so I was 22 or 24.
Okay. So
maybe.
So performing anything, especially for the first time you're showing in the open, can you talk about your mindset going into that and maybe your confidence level? Because you qualified in the open, intermediate.
I didn't have any of that crap.
Do what now?
I didn't have anything. I thought I hung the moon, dude.
Yeah, Superman. Okay.
I drove in there and I showed my horse. I marked a big whopping 206 1/2 in the first go around of the herd work.
Yeah.
Turned around. I think I marked a 19 in the reining.
Yeah.
And then came back for the fence work and marked a 20 something. It was the lowest score ever to make the finals. And I just happened to be that bottom hole that year.
That's great. That's great. I think, starting out in anything new, we don't know what we don't know, and you just go do it. We don't let the negative self-chatter get in our head. I've heard that.
I wasn't a limited open rider when I went to the snaffle bit the first time. I'd already moneyed out at these little pumpkin rollings around here, and it wasn't very much money back then. I think it was $5,000 or something. So I'd already won the 5,000. So I was an intermediate and an open rider. And back then, you kind of had to have an iron horse if you made the open finals and were an intermediate rider, because the intermediate finals were the day before the open finals.
Oh, wow. Now that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a hardcore deal. I mean, by the time you got to the open finals, either their dress was over their head or they were pretty rode down and relaxed.
That's great. Oh, man. So tell me this. It seems like your mother had a pretty big influence on you from an early age. It seems like you always wanted to go fast, which is I'm sure you do pretty damn well in the fence work. But just from what I researched, some of her advice to you early on was to slow down and learn the basics.
My dad trained every event because back then nobody specialized in one event. You couldn't make a living.
Yeah.
My mom was a basketball player in college and high school, and she coached high school basketball till I was first grader, I believe. I mean, she was pretty competitive, and I think I was 9 when they started the 4-H horsemanship program up there in Northeast Missouri that they ran for 30 some odd years. Way beyond me and my little brother. They kept running it, but she wanted me to do the showmanship, the horsemanship, the pleasure before I could do any of the fun events. And I think that molded me to be able to ride a lot of different style of horses, to be honest with you. That and my dad, couldn't buy that big dog horse, so we had to make them, and I did very well in the youth deal as a kid riding not as nice a horses as my son rides.
Yeah. Who was it that helped you along the way? I mean, was it your dad that was teaching you basic horsemanship at that age?
Yeah, my mom and dad. My grandmother she knew the Quarter Horse Journal front page to back page. And she never rode much, but she could tell you, and she didn't pull any punches either. She'd tell you when you're stupid and when you weren't. So, it was the whole group of people there. And I, of course, mentors that I didn't even know were mentors back then, helped. When I was probably 12 to 14 years old, Kenny Eppers came he moved to Missouri and came kind of in my view. And I sure liked how broke his horses were, and his reins were draped, and he moved his hand an inch and something would happen. And most of the time it was something cool.
Yeah.
And so I followed him around. If he stopped too hard, I'd have gone right where you think I'd have gone. That's how close I followed him. And he's still to this day he's beyond his time as far as I'm concerned on a horse. He just thinks outside the box. So that's how I try to train every horse personally for that horse, not for my style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely interesting.
I have a lot of different style horses that, over the years I adapt to their comfort zone, I guess you'd say. And that's usually what makes them better instead of trying to make them into my area. Yeah, I want you to look just like this. That doesn't always happen.
I know you showed Little Miss Shiny Checks, and then of course she is the mother of Blindsided. Do you try to stay along those same lines when you're talking about those different horses and their particular style? Do you see the trainability? Do you see them? Are they very similar? I guess being out of
when I moved there, that mare was a 2-reiner, and yeah, she was a 2-rein horse. And Chris Dawson had actually trained her in the futurities and went through her 4-year-old year and her 5-year-old year with her, and she adapted to me and I adapted to her, and you just had to understand that mare because she was a great mare. I mean, there was no doubt she was a great mare, but she'd make you a little nervous if you weren't a horseman, because you'd be going down the alley getting ready to go in the show pen, and she'd look like a barrel horse trotting sideways.
Oh, shit.
And she'd hit the show pen, and it'd be like a flip the switch, and she'd be immediately show horse. And I actually talked to Chris a little bit about it, and he says, "Well, it makes you nervous, doesn't it?" And I said, "A lot."
Yeah, I bet.
But he said, "You can't get after her." I said, "Well, I didn't, thank goodness." I mean, but because it goes bad. But you put her in the show situation, she was a show horse. And it didn't matter if you pulled her out of the stall or you galloped her for 2 hours, she was the same.
That's an interesting quality. I mean, that's a very unique quality, wouldn't you say?
Well, if you didn't know how to handle it, it could be very bad quality.
Right.
I just think that everything happens for a reason, and I was meant to show that mare as an older horse. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody else could have gone along with her fine too, but I got to show her, and that was fun for me.
Yeah, was Blindsided a lot like that as well?
No, never. I don't think I ever had a bad day on him. Maybe one time, but I think that was my fault. He was perfection from the time that Sarah, actually Chris's wife, started him when she worked for me at Carrol's.
Okay.
And he was perfect from the get-go, period. I don't know, it was something about him. I rode 2 full siblings to him that were just, they were good horses. They were just good horses. They weren't like, oh, good, I get to get on her. It's just I'm getting on another horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But him, you always look forward to getting on him, and you get up in the morning and get on him. You know what I mean? You want to ride him first.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, from sitting down with some other trainers, and it seems like everybody's crossed paths with one of those great horses at some time. And they all say the same thing, that those are the horses that they learn the most from. What is it, if anything, that you learned from Blindsided?
Blindsided, I didn't really train that horse, though. He pretty much trained himself. I just kind of stayed out of his way. I was kind of good at that anyway, but of staying out of their way and just kind of letting them figure it out. And then you say, okay, you've got it. Now let's go. I never had to say, let's go. It was always, I mean, as a 2-year-old, I have pictures of him going down the fence and I've got a coat on right there in Gainesville that he looks like a 8-year-old horse, you know, sucking his rear in the ground and getting around. And he's always been like that. He was just one of those kind of horses that you crave, you know, and you don't even know. I don't even think I craved him because I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. Would you agree that like having those horses like that opened your awareness to what's possible?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always look for that kind of horse again, and I maybe have found another one. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. That takes a lot of discipline, though, to, like you said, you just try to stay out of his way. And I'm just curious, where does that come from? You know, how do you, I'm sure it's a feel, and nobody can really teach feel. So where does that come from? How did you acquire that?
You know, I've always been able, since I was a kid, to catch ride. Basically, I think it's because my dad put me on so many different kinds of horses. I rode Arabs, Pasafinos, Foxtrotters, you name it. I've rode thoroughbreds. I rode a Frisian for a lady one time. I mean, and that was an experience in its own. But that I think that's why, is because I got a chance to ride so many different kinds of horses.
I don't know if I lost you or if the camera just didn't catch up to you.
Are you there?
Yeah. I got you back. It's weird. It's kind of going in and out. Yeah, so that's cool. I want to maybe shift gears a little bit and get into some mindset. You talked about Blindsided being perfection. I feel like you're a lot the same way. Just in you know, doing my homework. You damn sure have a winner's mindset or a winning attitude. You know, I mean, 14-time world champion just doesn't happen to an average person or a good trainer. I mean, you've got to be great. And so I'm curious, outside of your parents, where does that come from?
Oh, I've always been a sore loser. I've always tried to be the best at everything. I mean, I enjoy welding, but I want it to stick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I mean, I've always tried to be the best at everything, except for I didn't probably take football in high school as serious as I probably could have, because it was right there during a lot of horse shows.
Yeah.
So I didn't take it as serious I probably should have. I could have enjoyed a little bit more, but I didn't.
I got you. Well, I think
as soon as high school was out, I was gone. I didn't ever turn back and look back, ever.
That's an interesting point, and I'm curious to know from everybody that I sit down with. You know, it sounds like you didn't have any question in your mind that this was the path that you wanted to go down. I'm always curious to know what somebody's why is, or their purpose, and what it is that they chose to do. How did you know at that age that being a professional horse trainer was that path for you?
Well, I think the age that I knew it at, I think it was kindergarten. I think one of my high school buddies that I think he was a buddy of mine. I don't hardly remember him. We were friends, but I think he actually told my mother he was the most likely to succeed, voted that kid in the yearbook. He told my mother probably when I was 25 or 26 that, Jay always wanted to be a horse trainer. As long as I can remember, he always wanted to be a horse trainer. And he says, I still don't know what I want to do, to my mom. And that was kind of a weird, I'd never not thought about being a horse trainer.
Yeah. And I think, man, there's a lot of people that struggle with that, and some may never figure it out. They may never know what their purpose is or what their path is. And there's so many people on that journey to figuring that out. That's why I think I'm so curious. For me, it was baseball for a long time. I played baseball all the way through college. And then when I got done, I was like, well, shit, man, now what do I do? I had no idea, but I think the horse thing kind of fills that void for me. I'm on a very amateur level, but I enjoy the shit out of it, and so sitting down with people like you who have known that from a very early age, I envy in some way.
Well, it's just, I was born pretty much on a horse. I mean, basically, my mom didn't ride very much when I don't remember riding very much ever, but I guess she did when she was a kid. And then my dad, he rode, that's what he did. He trained horses. So I was always at the barn or doing something at the barn, regardless of if it was jumping off the hay onto my pony like Lone Ranger, or it was something. I was doing something. And my mom still says I changed about 8 different costumes a day when I was little, because I'd be an Indian, I'd be a cowboy, I'd be something all day long, every day.
Yeah. What about so to have that mindset to go out and want to be first and actually have confidence in that? I sat down with Tyson Durfee last week, and his quote was, "Sweat equity equals confidence," and I think there's a whole lot of truth in that. What are some of the routines that you're doing right now, Jay, to as far as putting in the sweat equity?
Well, I think my saying is you get out what you put in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I say to myself every morning, except for I say kiss a lot, keep it simple, stupid.
Sure.
That's a big saying for me, because you can get too complicated, and a horse's brain is the size of a walnut. And I think if you stack too much into that brain, that it has to come out somewhere, and it usually comes out with a reaction that you don't like. Fighting with a horse it's way overrated to me. A horse, I just got off one that he might turn out to be a great 3-year-old, but he is a goofy little sucker right now, and he's trying to figure things out. And I've got 6,000 acres here. He can figure out a lot in 6,000 acres. Regardless of canyons or walking, trotting, or loping. I don't go lope them to their tongues hanging out, but they need to see something different every once in a while besides just an arena.
Sure. Yeah, I think I saw a picture of you on your Instagram doctoring something on Shiny Outlaw.
Yeah, that was right after I got him. Yep.
So you're not afraid to take those show ponies and do a little ranching on?
Oh, no. That's good for him. That horse he's awesome. You can do anything you want with that horse at any time.
What forget where I was going. I wanted to talk about, you talk about a winner's mindset and winning first. Well, that doesn't always happen, so how do you overcome those challenges or setbacks, when a plan doesn't necessarily go the way you think it's going to go?
Well, you go home and you go back to work. I mean, and maybe I didn't. First thought is I should have done something a little different, or I could have done this, or I should have done that, or maybe I just didn't ride him hard enough. I don't know. Maybe I didn't work hard enough. I try not to blame the horse because they just pretty much do what you say. You know what I mean? Oh, he kicked out because of his attitude. Well, why were you showing it if he has a bad attitude? Well, why were you trying to do that and make something that he's not? I hear a lot of those excuses. Oh, that piece of crap. Well, why is he a piece of crap? Did you train him like that? That's the first thing that enters my mind when I hear that kind of stuff. I've had some phenomenal runs on some okay horses and never had another one again, and I've had some phenomenal runs on some great horses and had multiple after that. But I try to stay very positive. I don't like to think in the negative. My 16-year-old he's more anal than I am. He's almost to the point of being a perfectionist, and I'm trying to explain to him that, and it's hard to teach people that about a horse, because especially if they're very intellectual, the horse isn't a robot. They're not going to be perfect every time. You're going to miss a stop. You're going to overspin. You're going to drag a lead. You're going to miss a cow down the fence. You know what I mean? Things happen. You can just try to overcome that the next time you show them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think it's important, to not really judge that, or not really have an expectation of the outcome. Of course, you want to win, but all you can control is how you prepared for that, and then whenever you show.
Exactly, especially in the cow horse, we have 3 events, and 2 of them rely on animals that we don't have a halter on.
Right, yeah.
We don't have a bridle on. We don't have a saddle on. So it's a very humbling sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, I did the reining for a while, most of my life, and you pretty much know what you can mark when you walk in the pen on a reiner. But a cow horse, you have to rely on that cow too. So you can start taking things on, little hits on the chin to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I'll do this next time. I won't pull so hard this time and get him stuck in the ground. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, so some folks that are listening to this, or that will listen to this, may not have ever seen a working cow horse event. Can you explain what working cow horse is in 3 to 4 sentences?
Sweat, tears, and fun. How about 3 words?
3 words. That works too. I know a lot of,
pretty much in that order.
I know I have a lot of friends, and I try to explain that to them. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch this working cow horse deal or whatever it may be. And then I end up, I struggled to explain that. So I end up having to pull up a YouTube video and show them,
I do that. I've had to do that a lot. We are a very small part of this whole wide world. So there are a lot of people I don't think people in the horse industry think that there's another world out there. And it's interesting to me that people don't realize that we even ride horses. There's some people don't even know we ride them, I mean,
yeah.
That's what I try not to get caught up in, is in our small world, there's a whole other world out there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If I were to tell a friend of mine, hey, I'm going to a horse show, they think I'm leading it in with a halter. So to your point, yeah, they don't even know that you're riding in the arena.
Well, they probably saw the county fair where they're leading the steers.
Yeah, something like that. That's exactly right. Well, I'm a big believer, Jay, in we are the sum of the people that we surround ourselves with. And I know you're a big family guy, but outside of the family, who are let's say your top 3 or top 5, colleagues or peers or mentors, whoever it may be, that you look to continue to step your game up to the next level?
Well, I was and still am, a humongous Bob Avila fan. I thought that guy walked on air and never got dirty. And I probably still do to a point. He's probably forgotten more than I'll ever know. I mean, he could train a snaffle bitter and probably still be in the top 2 or 3 at the futurity this year. If we had given last year and this year, honestly, if he wanted to. Todd Bergen, I really, really, really respect the heck out of Todd. How he is able to change, and that's probably another one that he can change with. He's changed with the time so much since today's my lucky day when he won the snaffle bit or the reigning futurity on a snaffle bitter. It's just the styles have changed, and he has molded himself and actually been part of the change. There's 2 more, so you're going to have to wait for 2 instead of 3. Corey Cushing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I remember he's not that much younger than I am, I hope. I remember when he was in the youth and I was in the youth and I was just getting out, and he was kind of, I think, in the middle of his maybe. But his changing and horseman, that's a big thing to me, is being a horseman.
Right.
Not every horse is the champion, but they all have to have a job. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. I believe he's very talented. He's as talented a guy. He could go to the reining, the cutting, or the cow horse, or the roping if he wanted. He just chose to do mostly the cow horse.
I see.
And another guy that I really admire, and I always liked the guy, but I didn't know that I admired him as much as I do until he came and stayed a week before the World's Greatest this year, was Kenny Wald. Talk about a guy that changes with the times. I mean, he's 71, 2 years old and still making finals. And I watched my son he's always on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And he watched the 1983 snaffle bit futurity, maybe, or 86 snaffle bit futurity, and Kenny was on there. And he said, "Oh, look at Mr. Kenny, look at Mr. Kenny." And I was watching him, and I'm like, my gosh, talk about the change from then to now. I mean, he's always striving. I mean, every morning he was out here and getting it. And it was a snowstorm outside when he was here. And it's just, I really, really respect and admire him. He can do every event and do it well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you listed what, 4 pretty damn good ones. And yeah, I'm a firm believer that you have got to surround yourself with those people that you look up to and that you want to imitate. You know, not that they're better people in any way, but they may have a skill set that you may want to acquire, you know, or they may look at something a little bit different. And that really goes for anything, not just horsemanship or showing, but it really anything in life. Well, so what about, you mentioned your son Cutter? Do you get, and I think I know the answer to this, but do you get more enjoyment? I know he's got a world championship under his belt as well. Do you get more enjoyment out of seeing him win versus winning one yourself?
I really like to watch him win. I do. I think he's won 11 world titles total.
Oh, really?
And yes, sir.
What did I see? I don't know where I got my facts from.
Well, the last 3, I mean, it looks good on the college resume, but he didn't have a ton of competition because we went to the Palomino World and he showed in the calf roping, the breakaway, the head and the heeling, and the cow horse on an old Gilton that we had, and he won it all up there. He was pretty good. But no, mostly he's won, I think, 8 on CD DVD, or 7 or 8 on that CD DVD horse. And that horse is probably truly the special horse, because I got to show him as a 4-year-old. I think I won 100 and something thousand on him as a 4-year-old, and a world title and a reserve world title. And then we sold him, and he went to Ronnie Rawls, and a month later he won the stakes on him. And then somehow a year later he got to Todd Bergen's, and I told Todd one day, just kind of in conversation, I said, hey, if they ever want to sell that horse, I'd sure like to buy him. I think Cutter could show him and win on him. And he kind of gave me that look like, you know, he's a rough riding sucker, but, you know, he didn't say anything, because that horse is like riding a square-wheeled wagon. But when you get in the show pen, he's not rough at all. He's really smooth and really fluid. But just riding him around, I mean, he'll kill you. He makes your backbone just touch. Every joint just hits.
That bad?
It's weird. Bad. But I mean, that kid was 10 years old. He didn't know if a horse is rough or not. He just knows that he drags his butt, turns around, and works a cow. You know. So I think that, and they actually, the people did. I mean, I was a broke horse trainer, so it was. I mean, I didn't have a ton of money, and I still don't know if my wife knows exactly how much I paid for him, but it was a little more than probably what I let on. But it's turned out to be well worth it, you know.
Oh yeah, damn sure seems like it. So tell me this: you can be the best horse trainer in the world. You can win all the accolades and you can do everything right, but unless you know the business side of it, you're not going to last very long. So I'm curious to know, how did you learn that side of it? Now that you're out on your own, you know, Salt Fork Cattle Company, you're out on your own. How and when did you learn that side of it?
Oh, when I was 18, I moved to Columbia, Missouri, about 45 minutes from where I grew up, and I got $300 a month, and that included the feed and the hay. So by the end of the month, I usually had saltine crackers and Mountain Dew. That's what I pretty much lived on, because, you know, you got to take care of that horse.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, I've just kind of learned. It was I say I didn't go to college, but I'm still going to the School of Hard Knocks. I don't try to make a ton of money on people. The repeat business is where you make your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't make money on one sale of a horse or 1 month of training. You just can't do that. I'm not the most expensive horse trainer out there. I don't charge a lot. But I have really great clients and they stick with me through thick and thin. I mean, I have actually gained, since the coronavirus, I've actually gained 4 horses in the barn versus I know a lot of guys that have lost a bunch of horses.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not free by any means, but I don't figure I need to charge them for that syringe that I gave our horse some Banamine for, stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of goes with the having a horse, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't do that kind of stuff. The business part of it is not to nickel and dime them and to be very honest. I might be a little too honest for a lot of people because my time is worth more to me than your money. You know, if that makes sense. If it's not a good enough horse, I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
Or we will change to a different venue or a different event or something if they want to keep it with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can go rope on it. We can go Dr. Kel's on it in the pasture. We can make something out of that horse, or they can take it. They're more than welcome to take it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because it didn't fit me doesn't mean it's not going to fit somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think every trainer I've sat down with at this point has said that same thing in their own way. I don't want to waste my time or your money.
Well, and I say it a little different because the only reason I say that is because I want them to feel comfortable with them leaving their horse with me. My time, I'm not going to waste my time on your horse because it's wasting your money is basically what I'm saying. But if I say it that way, it comes out a little different and sounds a little more prickish, but it's honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And that does. You're right. Folks like yourself are in it for the long game. You know, making a sell or getting one horse in training doesn't really do anything for you. It's all about consistency.
I want them to come back 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and that's where we establish a relationship.
Right.
I mean, I've got people that I can make a phone call to and say, I've got you a horse, and they buy it immediately and then ask how it's bred. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. That's the kind of people I like. I want to be around that kind of, they trust me and I trust them.
Right. Right. I'm going to shift gears with you again because I have ADHD and that's what I do. So
every first person does. So
let's talk about the snaffle bit or the world's greatest, man. I'm always curious to know, like when you ride in that arena and the crowd's just going wild and music's playing, what is your song? What if you could pick a song to show to, what would it be?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of songs that I don't usually hear any of it.
Yeah.
So I don't hear anything when I'm showing. I don't know why, but they played a lot of different songs for me after I watched the video back. I've heard different songs. I kind of like like Black Betty or something's got a little. Come on, get you some.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you bet. What do you like? You like to show at the snaffle bit more than the world's greatest?
No. I'm kind of the opposite of a lot of horse trainers. They're all about the futurity. I love the futurity. I love to watch these horses grow and everything, but the futurity isn't the end all for me. I want that horse to go till he's 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I want, if he's not going to make the futurity, let's don't just blow his dress up. Let's see if we can get him to that 10-year-old year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Blindsided's 10. I showed him this year at the Snaffle Bit, or at the World's Greatest. And, you know, he was great. I just about lost a cow, and that's what took me out of it. But he was phenomenal through the rest of it. But no, I don't know. I love the futurity. I've won a lot at the futurity. I've had a lot of luck at the futurity. But it's that Hackamore 2-rein bridle that I crave a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard part is you've got to have a futurity horse to be able to get there. It's hard to take that 5-year-old horse that hasn't been shown and make him a great bridle horse. It's tough.
Right. I know what you mean. What about?
I call it the futurity push. The futurity. If they have the futurity push, usually you know what your horse is made of. If they don't have the futurity push, let's say a 3-year-old gets hurt and you have to have him off 60 days. Well, they didn't get the futurity push. Let's say it's July 15th and they're off till September 15th. They didn't get that futurity push. It's kind of hard to take them to those derbies without having that futurity push. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do. Can you explain what you mean by when you say the futurity push?
Well, I call it the push because I don't like the word. I don't like when people say the grind or I'm mashed on them today and I'm putting my thumb down on them. I don't like that. I like the futurity push because you're pushing them towards that ultimate peak before the futurity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm not. I don't want to pull them there. I want to push them there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
If you pull them there, they quit feeding. That's just my own kind of thought process in the deal. Is you're pushing them there and helping them guiding them there to that goal versus getting your thumb down on them and making them have it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't like that part of the horse world.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I'm curious to know. You talk about pushing. What is like? How do you push yourself mentally? And then also, what is your pregame when you're sitting in that tunnel underneath the John Justin or maybe Will Rogers? What is going through Jay McLaughlin's mind? How are you getting dialed in, I guess, for what you're about to do?
There's a lot. Depends on the event. If it's the herd work, you do a lot of exhaling because the herd work is a little slower. A lot of exhaling. You exhale a lot because the herd work needs to be a calm, relaxed, powerful, but then go back to relaxed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm going into the rein work, there's a lot of yawning. I don't know if it's a nervous habit, but I yawn a lot before I do the rein work or the fence work. And I've noticed here in the last several years that there's a lot of silence, not a lot of talking before the rein work or the fence work. Back there in the tunnel. Everybody's got their game face on and they're trying to concentrate. But what goes through my head is I try not to make it happen. I got to let it happen. And every time I walk into the pen, I say, okay, you got to let it happen. Don't make it happen. and it usually works out.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Dick Pieper, we're sitting up at the NCHA Futurity last year, and you see these people just pulling and kicking right before they ride in, and they're spurring and pulling, and he just looks over at me. He's like, he's like, what that tells me is that person is nervous and they haven't prepared as best they could, you know?
I totally agree. I mean, if you watch that's the herd practice, that's the range work practice, that's the fence work practice. You can spot the guys that are prepared and the guys and gals, I should say, guys and gals that are and aren't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious to know, it seems like you're dialed in now, like, as far as sitting back there, and that comes with experience, but that 20-year-old Jay McLaughlin sitting underneath the tunnel or maybe training horses, I'm curious to know what your advice to the younger version of yourself would be.
Oh, I've put myself in some pretty stupid positions. On a cow or somewhere on a horse. And I probably wouldn't hurt as bad as I do now if I had a little more mentoring from myself. Nowadays it's a little different than it was when I started, and everybody says this, but they're a lot more open to information, to giving information out now. I know I am, than they were then. They give you just enough to get you in trouble, it seemed like, the older guys. And I think that was a test to see what you were made of and how you handled it,
Right.
Where we don't test each other anymore. I mean, I'm big into the youth, and I have a lot of youth kids that come over and ride, and I try to make it very simple for them and give them as much information as they can handle, as I feel they can handle at that time, and then we'll just keep adding to it. A lot of and non-pros are the same way. I don't say, when I walk up to them after they walk out of the pen, I said, well, you did this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. My first question is, well, what do you think? And they get to telling you pretty much their whole run, and you don't have to say they did anything wrong. You know what I mean? They pretty much tell themselves that they did this wrong or they did this right, or,
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy, I think, the most about like helping the non-pros and the youth. And I don't have a lot of them in the barn. I don't know. They just come over for lessons, and it's just, I have a whole bunch of people that come over and ride, and I don't know if it's the positive part, but I always look to the good. Well, you did that great.
Mm-hmm.
And, this could have been better, or, if you'd have just put your foot on him right here, this would have happened, and then the next time I don't know. If people can break their own runs down, they don't ever forget it. But if I sit there and tell them left leg, left leg, left leg, left leg, left leg, left leg, the next time I don't say it, they forget it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. People, I think we're underpaid psychologists, to be quite honest with you.
Well, yeah, it sounds like
we have to deal with a horse and a person.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like you take a very Socratic approach to teaching, and not only are they learning, but I feel like whenever, at least for me, whenever I teach, or I'm in real estate, and so whenever I'm teaching somebody something about real estate or property management, I learn more than actually doing or having somebody tell me,
Right. And I I can learn from watching my dog work a cow. You know what I mean? I try to always, every day I try to learn something new and about something, you know, that has to do with a horse. I don't care about mathematics and all that. I just, I want to try to learn something new every day. And I figure the day I quit doing that is the day I'm going to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a question. I haven't asked this one on the show yet, but I'm curious because we all fear something. We're all have resistance to certain things. What is it that scares you, Jay?
Not being able to support my wife and kids scares the pea diddly out of me. That does scare me because they rely on me, you know, and that does scare me to death, quite honestly.
Do you spin that as motivation?
Oh, yeah. I turn it right around and work harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious. I think that's an interesting question, and I do a lot of journaling and meditation, and that one came to me the other day, and I something I've been thinking about. But man, I know we're almost out of time. I know you probably got to go climb back on another 3-year-old. So I just want to say I'm grateful for your time today, Jay. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I have 2 last questions for you. I ask everybody that comes on the show this. You know, the name of the show is The Converse Cowboy, and I would like to know, what is Jay McLaughlin's definition of a cowboy?
Because I tell everybody I'm not a cowboy when they call me one. I'm a horse trainer. Well, that's a tough one because I'm out here in the Panhandle, and there's a lot of good cowboys that don't look the part. My definition of a cowboy would be, I think somebody with a lot of work ethic that gets up and cares more about their animals than they do about themselves. That's probably a good definition of a cowboy, because they don't know it's Sunday. They don't know it's, you know, Mother's Day, Christmas. They still have to be taken care of, and somebody's got to do it, you know?
Rain, sleet, shine, got to be done.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, Jay, thank you again, man. Where can people find more about you if they wanted to maybe send you a horse to train, or I don't know if you're doing any clinics? Where can folks find Jay McLaughlin?
Oh, I think I'm on Facebook. I don't do Facebook, but I'm on there. Yeah. And I have a website, and then Instagram. It's Instagram, not InstaChat.
I knew what you meant. And yes, it's I believe it's Jay McLaughlin Performance Horses on Instagram.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, Jay, look, thanks again. I really appreciate your time. I'm very grateful for you sitting down. I know time is our most valuable asset. And like I said, I'm just grateful for it. So I look forward.
I really enjoyed it.